Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in my studio in Tijuana, Mexico, which is right by the border with San Diego. It's literally, well, from where I live, it's like 7 minutes away.
Oh, nice, man. I used to live in San Diego. I lived there for like 6 years. So, yeah.
So, sometimes if the people are not aware, they think it's like an hour drive or 2 hour drive, but it's pretty close. Yeah.
It's like that old joke is the best part of San Diego is Tijuana.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of true, actually.
Yeah, it never gets old because it's still true. Exactly.
Yeah, man. Well, that's awesome. Well, okay. So I want to talk more about Tijuana, but before I jump into everything, man, it's great to meet you. I was stoked when your team reached out for this because I love what you do, man. I love your music. And I don't know the best way to start off this conversation, but I was sort of thinking about it earlier today. And I kind of wanted to just start off talking about disco in general. Because I think there's very few people, especially from like a younger generation of producers, that have really put their stamp on disco as like not just sort of a reference or like an aside, but like disco is the main thing, right?
Yeah.
And do you feel that way? Like, I feel like it's very rare to see like a producer in the modern era who's like, no, disco is the main thing. This is the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it seems like it, especially in like today's climate in terms of dance music. There's obviously an underground of people that have been doing it for years, even before me. Like, but pushing it to the forefront and really like going down that lane, I do feel there's only a certain handful of people, maybe from different places, especially in the US. I know that in Europe, it's a sound that keeps going and people really accept it over there as a part of like the range of sounds they hear when they go to a club. So it's not unusual to walk into a club and hear disco, but over here, it seems a little bit more special, I would say, in a way. So it seems like we come to the point where younger generations don't really know where it came from. Like, it's been 50 years roughly since like the 70s. So for them, it could be something new, So I feel that the people that do it in the underground stay very true to the original sound, which is amazing and I truly love. But there's only a handful that are kind of trying to freshen it up for the younger generations. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those funny things where when I see someone like you doing it, one of my first thoughts, other than just like, I like this, is it's amazing to me that there aren't so many more people in that lane, because like disco, obviously it's timeless music. Any DJ or producer knows it is always going to set off the dance floor. It's always a good vibe. People are always happy to hear it at a party. And it's just, it's one of those things where I was listening to your music. I was like, you know what? I'm actually surprised more people haven't done this, because it's like a no-brainer. It's just like the best music.
It seems. I was talking with some friends this weekend, and we were talking about how that same topic, right? How DJs, there's not more people doing it, but they kind of do it, and it's this weird thing where every summer we kind of stumble upon what am I playing as a DJ this summer, right? So the sun is out, we're playing festivals, we need that disco infused banger in the bag, and we put it out and we play it at festivals and it works great. So to me, it's like I share that same opinion where like, why aren't we just like playing a full set of this type of music, right?
Yeah, 100%. It just feels so good, man. And you see it even with, pop music has been going through a big disco phase lately. Yeah.
Yes.
The Dua Lipas of the world and all that. And again, those are like the craziest hits, it's like,
right.
It's one of those weird things that everybody loves it. But I wonder if, there was such a huge backlash to like the original wave of disco in the 70s. I wonder if somehow culturally that's almost just been passed on, that like people are like, oh no, we're not allowed to like fully embrace it. Even if they don't know why anymore. You know?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I think in a way it's that, you know, maybe something kind of stayed in the air, I guess, you know, that kind of, you have to, I find like when I go play, sometimes at the start, if I'm playing like the classics and stuff, all of a sudden, which is like a double-edged sword, because some people will be like, yeah, the classics, like I know this. And then some people will be like, this is wedding music. Like,
right.
I like, why don't want to hear this right now? And that maybe that's the kind of people that there's a cheesiness to it, I think. Like at least the ones that you still hear on the radio, is like, oh, why would you play that? So it's a very thin line where, at least from my perspective, I want to make people dance and want to give them something they know. But sometimes I kind of masquerade it under, say I use the instrumental from a well-known disco track, but I changed the vocal to like a more modern vocal. And that usually gets the right amount of attention and energy where there's like, oh, this is not cheesy, even though I know the instrumental, but it has a Dochi a cappella on top or something. Right. So it's a thin line you got to play, especially with today's crowd. But I mean, there's a way, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been doing it. Yeah.
It's funny hearing you talk about it too, of like, you know, people being like, oh, maybe it's too cheesy or that sort of thing too. I think that's an interesting part of it too, where I think the people who really embrace it, it's kind of just like crowds have to get over themselves too, where it's like the music, we all know, every single DJ and every single producer knows how good the music is and how well it works on the dance floor. But it's just an attitude thing where some people are like, maybe it's not cool enough to like, or maybe it's too cheesy or whatever that is. And for me, it's actually the more mature choice to get over yourself and be like, no, fun is fun. Like if it works, it works, you know? And
exactly.
Yeah, that's so funny, man.
I find when I mean, the setting is also important, because if the sun is out and it's a rooftop, it's easier for people to kind of get into it. But if it's a dark club at 2 a.m., it's a little bit, you got to play a little bit different and kind of start putting it in there in a way, you know? And that's
an interesting point too. Have you found, you know, now that you've been touring around a little bit, going around the whole world, where do you get like the best responses, or have you gotten great responses from places that surprised you?
I think, I mean, there's definitely like a difference between Europe and the US. I'll start with the US. I think New York is obviously very embracing of things.
They got the history of it. Yeah.
And they have the history. Studio 54 was there. So some of that kind of stayed in the air there, because it's very accepted whenever you play disco or soul stuff there. Where I was surprised, I would say Texas, because the South, like disco never kind of, I think the South was very conservative overall. Like,
Still is,
exactly. And I've gone to, obviously Austin has become like they say Austin is the LA of Texas, right? So
yeah,
you can kind of feel it in the air when you play this type of music and they get down. But definitely Dallas as well. I've gone to Dallas every year, and there's like this thing where it's this promoter called Take a Break Fest. Okay. And he's been growing very fast. And the first time he invited me was like already a 500 cap, and it was sold out like a month before, and this whole thing. But no one in the crowd is over 23.
Crazy. Yeah.
And they are so open to anything. So it's been great to see. So that was an unexpected. But like the great cities are New York, San Francisco.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of, you kind of get to expect that they're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Yeah. The Texas thing is funny. Is that, What's the club? It'll Do? Is that the one in Dallas?
Oh, well, It'll Do is one of them. So I've gone to It'll Do. And then this promoter does his own thing in like, he'll rent out a warehouse or a space.
Oh,
So
sick.
he has enough brand recognition to kind of just move the show wherever he wants.
That's the best. That's the best.
Yeah. And that's the young crowd I see in Dallas, that it's like, whoa, like this is crazy. I could actually play anything. I could actually play similar to what I play when I go to Europe, because I know people are like open mind about it and they know a little bit more. That's probably the only place I could do it in the US right now, at least where I've been to. But yeah.
Well, how about for you, man? Like, we started off talking about how disco has this sort of universal appeal. What was your path to it? Because hearing your music and watching some of your videos and all that, I mean, it seems like you could probably make a lot of different kinds of music well. What was your path to where your sound ended up?
I think, I mean, I was born and raised in San Diego, so the West Coast, I mean, there was like a radio station here called Magic 92.5, and my parents have some influence in how I ended up doing this. But
were they musical too?
Yeah, I mean, no, they weren't. They just liked music in general. And I guess coming from like a Mexican background, music in English is not really like a thing. But my parents were like, oh no, they only listen to music in English. So my dad was like a huge 80s, like the UK thing, like Genesis and Phil Collins and like Duran Duran and all that stuff, which is like a little bit disco influence sometimes.
Yeah.
And then my mom was more on like the rock and roll side, like the glam rock and stuff like that. But also, I guess guilty pleasures, she would like turn into this radio station when there was only like disco stuff. And I'm a music lover, like you said. Like I probably done every genre, like just experimented with it and stuff. And I had previous bands where I used to play like rock and roll and guitar and stuff like that. So I love all types of music, but I kept coming back to like that sound. And then being in California, obviously like the West Coast sound was a lot of hip hop in the 90s and stuff. So that kind of still going, like throwbacks. But I later learned that all of those were kind of sampling disco records. So I was like, oh, now I love hip hop because it kind of goes back to that. And everything that I kept loving, I turned 21, started going out. And house music, same thing, kind of sampling disco records, at least like the 2000s house era. So I was just like, why does it keep going back to that same era, for like this feel good music, if it's like hip hop or house or whatever. So I kind of just went back to the source, I guess.
Yeah.
And really dug really deep. I think disco became so mainstream back then. I wasn't alive, obviously, but I started discovering that every country had their own disco sound, like the African boogie. So I got into that and I was like, oh, this is crazy. I can't understand the lyrics, but musically it's like a different kind of disco. So the underground is so vast of like just the amount of music that came out of that genre at that time, and still during the 80s where it was kind of dead, at least in the US, but it kept going in Europe. So it just blew my mind, like the amount of music and the different kinds and stuff. So I went really deep, and then I guess I kind of came out of that with my own sound, So that's kind of how I ended up doing the disco thing. Just every time I kept coming back years later with hip hop, with house and stuff like that. So
that's so cool, man. Well, and you just made me wonder, this is kind of an ignorant question that I'm embarrassed I don't know. Was there like a Mexican disco version back in the day?
No, but I have a friend who's also a DJ, and we always joke about this because he's only focused on there weren't many any Mexican groups, but there was a lot of cover groups that would translate say Good Times from Chic. They would translate it into Spanish. and then re-record it basically.
Right.
And you have a bunch of records that are just covers of the disco hits in the 70s. And it's really funny because he'll find them, like he'll dig through the stuff and then he'll be like, look what I found. And then he'll play me the song and it's like a well-known song in English. And I'm like, that's crazy. It sounds so cool in Spanish. Like I might play that. And
I was going to say, there's probably some gems. Yeah. I feel like those cover records, that kind of thing, there's always one out of like every 50 is like better than the original.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, it has a little bit of weirdness and experimental stuff in there. You're like, oh, this is great. There's a lot of, in Spanish from Spain, there was a few like pop vocalists that kind of went into the disco era and kind of transitioned their career into that. So you also get like well-known Spanish vocalists that kind of did their disco record. Right. Say, oh, I did a disco record and stuff.
Yeah, that's
and it's usually pretty good. So you'll have those gems around. But it's like I say, you kind of just go deeper and deeper and you find stuff.
I love it, man. Well, and another thing that sticks out to me about this story is that you really went and did the homework of it to like really dig into where all of these influences you were hearing came from. And I think it's worth mentioning because a lot of people don't do that. Even people who go on to be music producers and use those influences, not everybody traces it all the way back. What is it? Have you always been that person, like who just needed to like know the, where everything came from, like to go all the way into an interest like that?
It seems like I'm that person, at least from my friends' perspective. They're like, man, you always like take it like to the next level. Like we could be talking about anything. You'll be like, go do your research and then come back and be like I would probably fun fact anyone to death. Like I just know random stuff all the time. So disco is like something I like. So I was fortunate enough to have a group of friends that were into it as well. Cause I had a band before doing this and we were already kind of listening to that, been listening to that kind of music, even though we didn't really make disco as like a pure genre. We kind of were like a fusion thing, but it became a thing where, like we would just hang out and be like, have you heard this song? And it would turn into like, who could find like the weirdest pop disco record from like 73 or something? Or like, have you heard this African boogie thing and stuff like that? So that became a thing. And we were kind of bouncing ideas out of each other. So that I'm really fortunate to have lived through that before starting this project.
That's so cool, man. And I love hearing that kind of story of just like kids having fun, exploring sounds together in the modern era. Because so many times you talk to a producer in this day and age, and it's just like, no, I was like the one weird kid in my neighborhood, and it was the internet that gave me that community. Right. Which is cool in its own right, but I feel like it's more rare now to hear the story of like all of us kids had this weird niche interest, and that's just fun, man. That's like a universal thing I think everyone can relate to.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We were the weird kids. Definitely like when we started DJing out, I mean, no one was playing disco, at least in the San Diego. I mean, other than like the OGs, they had their own spaces and we didn't really go there as like 20 somethings. Right. But we were definitely like, what are these guys are playing disco? Like what? But people got into it. So, I guess we were kind of learning as we went playing. Yeah,
that's the way to do it though. Learning together, having fun together. Like that's the best thing in life, man. Yeah, it's a rare thing. Did you grow up playing instruments as well?
I did. I was like in today's standards, when you have like 15-year-olds and like becoming pop stars, and been doing that for 10 years or something. I was kind of late. I always liked music, but I was doing professional soccer before that, so I was kind of like late into the music thing, like picking up an instrument. But I did. So I started. I started doing the like trying to learn instruments around 23, 24. but I was really like a fast learner. I mean, I'm not prolific in any of the instruments, but I play them enough to produce a song. And like, I always gravitated towards like, yeah, it's cool to play guitar, but like, I want to make a song. Like, I need the drums, I need this. So I kind of learned a little bit of everything enough to where I could, hey, I made a song. Like, this is cool, and trying to get better at producing eventually. But yeah, it took a while. I play guitar, I play bass, keyboards and stuff, obviously back. Yep. But I'm not like a virtuoso. So I kind of focus more on like songwriting as well and stuff like that. Even though this project, I didn't think I was going to end up being a DJ, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought I was going to write songs or do the band thing or something. But that really played, like learning about songwriting and stuff, I kind of understand how the human brain works and reacts to, say, like a chorus and stuff like that. So my music is pretty catchy, and I think it comes from that, like just learning what works and what doesn't to the human ear. So yeah, I mean, I started playing instruments, and now obviously I try to keep getting better and better, but it's more like on the production side.
So before, when you were doing soccer, was that what you thought life was going to be at a certain point? Like, you were really trying to be like a pro player? Yeah.
I ended up playing professional, which I mean, I probably started like
MLS professional?
Well, no, in Mexico. So the MLS was very, I mean, I wouldn't say very new. It was already the MLS, but it didn't have the recognition it has now with like the international stars and stuff. So naturally, as a Mexican, born in the States, a lot of us would kind of just go down south to the professional Mexican teams that had more, let's just say they had more like a better reputation, right?
It's just a bigger scene, right? Like,
yeah. Well, now the U.S. is like, it's amazing, right? Like what they've done in like such little time. I mean, they're basically the same now, but back in like, say 10 years ago, when I was like, a teen almost, I had to go down south, and I had been playing soccer like all my life, basically in high school and stuff like that.
But so you ended up on a pro team, like you made it.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. I played professional for like 3.5 years, like in a professional, like second division and like the division like under it, because I wasn't that old to like go to the top, but did that for a while. I thought I was going to do that for life, if I'm being honest. Like I didn't really think about music at all. I love music, but I never played anything. I didn't know anything. So that didn't work out. A bunch of like life happens, I think. I think I was good enough. Like I was already playing professional, but once you start getting to the top, you realize that, corruption, the sons of politicians get to play, or the sons of like
that kind of thing,
retired soccer players and stuff, at least in Mexico.
Well, for sure.
So yeah,
I mean, not to bum anyone out who's listening or watching to this, but that's basically true in music too.
I later realized I should have known that from the start, maybe. But yeah, I was talking to a friend and I said, well, basically anywhere. I mean,
that's just a rule of life.
Yeah.
Corporate jobs, any of it.
Corporate, everything. So stop that, and then I was already like 23, 24, and just didn't really know what to do with my life, per se.
That must have been hard, man, because to get to a professional level in soccer, that means you must have been doing it since you were a little kid. Like,
like
so that's your whole life for most of your life, dude. That's got to be a crazy feeling after it's done.
I tell people I probably live like 3 lives in one, and I'm, like, it's like mid-30s. So, but yeah, I thought I was going to do that. And then by accident, I guess, I mean, I like music, but I had to get just a regular job. I was working construction. My dad still works construction. So he's like, just come on, like, I'll teach you. And I hated it, man. Like, I didn't like it. Like, I mean, I understood it and I could do it, but I didn't see myself doing that for life. So I was like, just started playing music. I have friends who played instruments and they're like, hey, would you teach me? And they're like, yeah, I'll teach you. Like, I'm not a good teacher, I'll tell you, but I'll teach you. So like they were like very like, you need, like, what do you mean you can't do this, Corey? Like, just do it. And so I was like, I kind of learned in the bad way, but I didn't take it personal. So I kind of learned really fast. They're like, what do you mean you can't play this? Like, just play it along and stuff like that. So that's how I got into music. And then I wrote my first song like 2 years after. And then it wasn't bad. And I was like, maybe I could do this. I thought it was going to be, I wouldn't say easy, but I was like, okay, from soccer to music.
Yeah. I mean, like you already made it to the top of one thing. So maybe you could do it again, you know?
Well, yeah, I had that in mind. But my parents were like, dude, like, why don't you just like study something? Right. So it's like, I did. I went to college and like, I was just jumping on like different things that I wanted to do. And nothing really felt like I could do it for life. Yeah. Like, I think the closest thing was like graphic design. And I remember there was like, you had to do a pamphlet or something, like a brochure thing. And, I did one like from like the Korg synths. Like I did it on the whatever theme you could. So I was like, I'll do one about synths or something. And I designed it and I thought it was like the greatest thing ever. And I gave it to my teacher and he's like, this is like from out of 1983. And I was like, it's perfect. What are you talking about? Like, yes, that was the whole point. And he's like, this is horrible. And I was like, oh, maybe I can't do this for life. Like, I need to like look for something.
That's so funny though, because I feel like that was just your version of like making disco. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in a way. And I ended up in a music production class that I didn't tell anyone I took, and I loved it. And I was like, you know what, this is it. I quit the class, but I got into like producing and stuff and learning. So
were you DJing already at that time or did that come later?
I started to DJ, but I wasn't DJing in decks. I had like the Ableton. It wasn't even the push. I don't even remember.
Oh yeah, the launch pad. Is that what it was?
The launch pad.
Yeah.
And I kind of was mapping the tractor. I
remember. I knew other people who did that.
Okay,
for sure,
yeah. So I was mapping it, and like the buttons were weird, but I understood what it did. So I started playing DJ sets like that, and then I bought a controller. But I was doing the band thing, so no one would fly us out because it was like 7 guys. And bands started doing DJ sets. We started looking at these bands and I was like, oh, maybe we should just do like DJ sets too. So that's how we started DJing. Yeah.
And still in San Diego or was this in Tijuana?
It was both.
Okay.
So we would go back and forth. We would get booked in San Diego for DJing and playing, and same in Tijuana. The better parties were probably in Tijuana sometimes.
I would say most of the time, yeah.
But it was fun to see like that transition of people kind of, it's like kind of the birth of the internet and how music related to the internet, especially like music discovery. So whenever people saw something new, they would kind of gravitate to it. So it was a good time to experiment with at least disco that wasn't being played in the clubs and stuff. So It was good times, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. Were you also going out and seeing a lot of other like DJs or bands or that kind of thing? I'm always curious, like especially in Tijuana, like what the scene was like at the time.
It was weird. Like there was like so many bands at the time, and my sister studied. My sister decided to go study like design or something in London at the time. And she's like, okay, like she figured it out. And she's like, I'm going. So I went to London, came back. And what I saw in London was like very forward thinking in terms of like what a band was. Right. I saw people doing a 3-piece with no drummer. And that blew my mind. And I was like, what is this thing? Like, because we were doing like a drummer and a bass player and everything. So I kind of brought that back. And there was like a birth of a bunch of bands that kind of did that thing where it was like half electronic, half organic.
For sure.
So that was like a bunch of bands in Tijuana and in San Diego were that mix. So it was interesting to see, but no one was really kind of pushing it to the dance side because we were trying to still keep the band thing going. Like, what is
have
this DJ thing?
the rock edge a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Rock is not dead and stuff like that. And I was like, oh man, I kind of saw it coming like 2 years before. And I was like, I think rock is dead, man. Like, I don't know where it's going to go from here, you know? Like, and then I was seeing this girl and she invited me to a concert. She's like, oh, is this DJ? Let's just go. It's in Tijuana, like whatever. I was like, okay, international DJ, let's go. And I ended up going, and it was Steve Aoki, which I have never heard of at the time. Like, this was my first encounter with like DJ culture. Even though I was already DJing, like we were doing it like in a band.
Yeah, not so much in like the what I call it, like the big top EDM.
Superstar EDM, yeah. And I saw like people's reaction to his music, obviously EDM at the time. And he also played like a bunch of remixes like Nirvana, The Kills and stuff like rock and roll and kind of made it electronic.
What era are we talking about here? Is this like early 2010s era?
Yeah, like 2012 or something like that. Yeah. And I saw that and I remember it just kind of blew my mind to see the people's reaction to that music. Because I wasn't getting that reaction when we were playing in bands. And people would kind of be, hey, yeah, that was cool. Like, but like
that's like peak Aoki era too, where people would lose their minds. Yeah. And it was packed too. And I was like, who is this guy? Why is it sold out? Like, this is a big space. And then I saw it and I was like, oh, I get it. Like the cakes and stuff. I thought that was cheesy, but just the sonics of electronic music and how it affected people. Yeah. And that kind of stayed with me. And I kind of paired it with the London thing I had seen. And that we're kind of in the rise of that DJ culture with EDM, but I wasn't looking there because I came from a band. So. Right. That's super interesting. Yeah, that actually connects a few things in my brain of maybe how your music ended up sounding the way it does. Because I think your new music, your modern music, the stuff you're putting out now, it fits in really well in an EDM context. Like it can be on the same stages as all those people, but it doesn't have, it's a different perspective, if that makes sense. Right. Like to me, it feels like it's coming from a different place, even though you could play it side to side with, the more EDM stuff, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense because that's kind of how I feel in a way when, I played the Breakaway Festival. I played 2 dates like last month. And
I just actually talked to the Breakaway guys on here like a month ago. Yeah. Shout out to those guys.
Yeah. Shout out, man. It's a great festival. And I played and I kind of felt that way, like my music can exist in those spaces, even though it's like, predominantly, it depends on which city it is, but like bass music, sometimes it's a little bit more tech house and stuff like that. So I kind of live along those lines, but it feels a little bit separate. And that's kind of how I feel in the scene, but it's not a bad thing. I kind of embrace it, it makes me different.
Did you ever feel any pressure to like fit in with the larger scene or to like define what you do in a way that you hadn't thought about, if that makes sense? Because it's weird to say that what you do feels like a breath of fresh air because it's so based in like an old form that's been around for a long time. But in the modern EDM landscape, like at least to me, like it really does feel like a breath of fresh air and like just a relief to hear something different in kind of an ironic way.
I think when I started releasing music, there wasn't much attention. I mean, I had more attention than I had with my other projects, so that's why I went full in on this. But that music was not disco house, I guess, if you want to call it. It wasn't really popular. It was like, oh, that's from the 2000s, and you still have the OGs around. So it's not like, oh, he's doing something new. But after like COVID, kind of the perspective kind of changed and then TikTok happened. So now you have like 16 and 17-year-olds asking me in the comments, like, what is this music called? And I'm like, oh, that's when it clicked. I was like, oh man, like we kind of gone full circle where they don't know what it is.
Yeah, what's old is new again. Yeah.
Yes. And I had a few A&Rs in my DMs because I had like the Crystal Waters edit I made blow up, and I had like every record label just asking me stuff. And after that happened, they kind of wanted me to go like the tech house route because that's what was hot,
right?
You know, like 2022, 23. I mean, it had already peaked, in my opinion. You know, it's like that was like probably like the best time. I mean, it's still pretty good, but it's kind of changing now. So they were kind of pushing me to maybe you should do this, like this sound and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? Like I can do it. And I was like kind of playing with stuff, but it just didn't feel right. So I mean, luckily, I guess I will never know, but I ended up not signing a few record deals because it just didn't feel like they wanted me to do what I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a big key, man. I mean, a lot of like up and coming producers listen to this or watch this too. And I think that's a really important thing to put out there is that a lot of times you will have people in your ear telling you, yeah, like make this move or go this direction. And if it doesn't feel right, there's always a reason for that, you know? Because it's when you're just coming up, it's really tempting to be like, okay, this big label wants me to do this thing. They must know what they're talking about. And I want to be successful and have opportunities. So I should just try and do what they want. And it's hard when you're young, but like you gotta push back on that, man. It's good that you had the sort of internal willpower to do that at that point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing pretty good now. So I'd say it's done me well, but it's definitely like a long-term vision for that because, like you said, it's very tempting when someone throws a lot of money at you and be like, come here, I want to do this, but you got to tweak this and do that. And then all of a sudden it's not even you. And and by all means, if like that wasn't my vision for the project, but if that's your vision, I mean, that people go down that route and they do exceptionally well. It just wasn't my vision of what I wanted long-term. So I have a good management team that really stepped up and advised me, even when I was like really close to signing, and then later found out that it was a great choice not to sign by other people that did sign. And I was like, oh, wow, he wants to get out of the deal already. And it's not even been a year, but yeah.
Yeah, those stories are so common, man. Yeah.
I know, but you know, I think this is more like a marathon, you know, and you got to play it that way, even though like if you do something that is very along the lines of what's trending now and that works for you, you still have to turn that into a career anyways. Otherwise, you just had a song and things move so fast now that it's like in a year, like that song is old.
Right.
You know, I feel my TikTok viral moment in 2022 is like 10 years in the past, and it's literally 3 years in the past.
Can you talk about what was that moment for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, it's I made an edit of the Crystal Waters classic Gypsy Woman, and at the time I didn't really see. I mean, there's been 1,000 remixes of that, but I want to do my version, which kind of kept the original soul of it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to change the drums and the bass, make it a little bit groovier. So I did a finger bass, and I was stuck between signing with someone, so I couldn't really. I wasn't like bonded to a contract, but I was waiting on them to tell me if we were going to sign. So that felt like forever.
Right.
And I wasn't putting anything out, so I decided to do a bunch of remixes, and that was one of those. And I didn't think anything of it. It was for me. I wanted to play it when I did the DJ shows, and I actually did two versions. I did the what I thought was the main version, which is just an edit of the original, and then I was just doing something and I was hearing the song in the background. And I had also been listening to the Bucketheads classic, which is These Sounds.
Swirling in my mind.
Yeah. And I had that other track in my mind as well, thinking, oh, that also, like, no one's playing that right now. Like, it's been 20 years and, like, this is great. Like, why is no one playing this? And I had the Crystal Waters one and like, I muted a couple of vocals or something. So I had the hook from the Bucketheads, the Swirling in My Mind. And I kind of, like I said, the songwriter in me kind of kicked in and was like, oh, what if you like put that, just the vocal on top of the Crystal Waters chords,
right,
in the chorus, and make that the chorus and leave the verse as like the regular Crystal Waters thing. And that was a B-side. So I put it out on Bandcamp and YouTube. And I remember I posted a video. I used to do these things when I started the project, but on YouTube, where I would look for old footage and put my music on top of it. And stop doing that like 2019 or something. And then COVID came around and TikTok, and I was like, what should I do? Like, I was trying to think about content and stuff. So I went back and got like a Ibiza 90s from the Spain Ibiza, not the Miami one. And you had a bunch of characters, man. Like they had the glasses, they had the look.
Dude, I love old nightclub footage is some of the best, like from the 80s and 90s.
It's the best, yes. And I put I don't know, something told me to just, I think I like the B-side better. So I'll just do that thing and then post it on TikTok. And I'll rush through this, but basically I posted it and it was like my first viral-ish video, 100K views.
Yeah.
A lot of people was like, what is this music and stuff like that? And who are these people? Because they would kind of look at it and be like, who are these people? And it was like at the peak of the Y2K thing as well. So it was like they kind of looked like Y2K because they were the original Y2K. Right. But it was like a mind thing where it was just being at the right time at the right moment. And I think it was like 3 days in, and every night I would kind of go into the sound on TikTok and see what people were doing to the song. One girl used this colored filter. Basically, if I can explain it, it looked like the Apple commercials.
Oh, yeah.
They would do like the green and the blue, and there was someone dancing. It very similar to that, but it kind of activated when you nodded your head and the filter would turn on and you could dance or whatever. Right. That filter already existed, and this girl used it in a very clever way with the song. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Went to sleep, woke up 12 hours later or something. And it had already like 4,000 videos to it, and everybody was doing that.
Right.
I was like, what is this? What's happening? And then 2 hours later, I had 5 record labels in my inbox. A day later, it was crazy. They were calling my phone. I didn't even know how they got my number.
Wow.
Like it started getting super crazy, and then it became a bidding war. And then apparently Sony had like a version they wanted to do with the Crystal Waters idea already. So they're like, oh, this is perfect. Like, let's kind of combine both of them. And that's how Alok and Ella came into play with the song. And Kenny Dope came into play with the sample.
Right.
He wanted to be credited on the track. So I ended up being like the 4th artist on there.
How it always goes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, major label politics, right?
Yeah.
It was, I mean, when there's a lot of money in things, I think that it really starts getting a little bit dark.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I didn't even know, I didn't think it was going to get released. I was like, it's 2 samples. Like, it's a sampling nightmare.
Well, that's the other part of it, right? Is that like, yeah, you're going to have to fight some pretty gnarly battles when you're working on that level. But at the same time, they do have the money to clear samples like that maybe you wouldn't on your own.
Especially if it starts moving. which it became apparent that it did. It started getting 100,000 videos, and like it was just going crazy, and they were going crazy. They're like, we need to put this out now. And I remember I played a show in Mexico City during all this crazy stuff, and I went with some friends. Like I planned this, like, I don't know, a couple months before, and I couldn't even leave the Airbnb. Like I had meetings. I had like the president of labels calling me, trying to get me to sign with him. Like it was crazy. And it was just that song. And I didn't sign like a record deal because I told him I have more songs. Like I'm an actual artist. Like I had like 30 songs at the time already on Spotify. And I was like, I want to turn this into a career, basically.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's another path. There's like an alternate universe where you do sort of sign a deal based off that song, and kind of either you do it to yourself or the label molds you into it, but you kind of just end up being like, oh, this is the like edit sampling guy, you know? Because that is a career path some people go down. Right. So it's good that you had that vision for yourself already, man, because otherwise, maybe it goes a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I signed. The song had to be signed to a label to get released. So
of course,
just the song, and it got released.
Well, and it's a great song too. It's worth saying. Like, you did a great job with it, and it's. I mean, it's so cool too. Did you ever end up talking to like Crystal Waters or Kenny Dope or any of that? Yeah,
not Kenny Dope, but me and Crystal were in contact because things, record label things, but the original, the edit I did was actually going to get released on Warner.
Okay.
And it was already signed and everything. And it was just me and her.
Right.
But then that kind of fell through because apparently some of the sample wasn't cleared in the end, even though they said it was. Someone owned a percentage somewhere, and that kind of messed it up. So we had to wait. And then Sony kind of came in and was like, oh, we own that percentage, or we have that deal with someone. So I was permitted to use the original Crystal Waters sample. So I talked to her since the Warner deal, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm down to do this. And I was like honored because I thought that she was going to be like, it's a classic, you know, like.
I had her on this podcast a few months back, and she's so cool, man.
Yeah. She's a queen.
Yeah, and absolutely.
I talked to her briefly, like via email and stuff, and she was down. So we ended up signing to Sony with Alok and all these other people. And then I played a festival in Canada like a year later, and she was on the lineup. Oh, and nice. we got to meet in the hotel, and we had a conversation about the remix and stuff, and it was fun, man. She's great.
She rules. She was so fun and down to earth, and just like I don't know, man.
Yeah, the best.
So such a legend.
Yeah.
Can we talk for a minute about, because this is another thing I think you're very good at that's maybe an underappreciated quality, is like through the lens of that song where you're sampling not one, but two really classic house records. How do you work with sort of a timeless, already legendary sample, song, whatever, without sort of ruining the classic, but also without being corny about it, if that makes sense? Like, I think it's a really delicate process to take something that already has so much meaning and is just like already a classic in its own right. How do you approach something like that?
I mean, I had been skeptical about doing a classic. It's like, I always say it's like the old saying of like, you can never remix or edit Daft Punk. Like,
right.
who's gonna do it better? Like, just leave it as it is, right? In this case, I just think it was like a destiny thing. I have like a few rules when I approach editing and remixing, and one of the rules is if it's a classic, I'm not touching it. Or the only way I'm touching a classic is if I think I can make a different version of it. And that doesn't mean like I'm doing like I'm reworking the soul of the song or the chords. So if I'm doing like a different version, which I was in a way, I was trying to the original is very house and straightforward, and I wanted a groovier version that fit my sets. So it was more for me, I guess, and that in a way kind of permitted me to kind of work that, because otherwise I wouldn't have even thought of like touching that song, because I was 100% super like serious when I was talking to the labels that wanted to clear it. I was like, we need the sample.
Yeah.
We're not re-recording this because it's just the worst thing you can do to a classic. Like, we're not doing this. Or like,
I hate it.
You're going to get less money. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I have to do it justice. And in the end, it's a re-recorded version, but it's Crystal Waters. So I was like, okay, we could do that. We could do that. If it's Crystal Waters, like, I mean, who else can do it, right? So that was like the second best option. But yeah, I try not to do it unless I can do a different version of it. And that way, I'm not trying to make it better, because you can't. You can't make a classic better. It is what it is, and it has what it has, and that's what makes it special. But if I can do a different version, and that also can be utilized in the dance floor today, I think that's like the best way to put it, where I'll approach something and try to give it what it's, and I don't want to use the word lacking, but give it a different feel.
Bring it into your world a little bit. Like what you were saying earlier about wanting to just make something that would fit in with the rest of what you were doing. That makes the most sense to me, where you're like, this is what I do, but I also love this thing. I wish there was a way to combine the two.
Right.
That I think is like a really smart, creative impulse to follow.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe that's a good way to talk about kind of the music you're making now. Like, obviously you've got the new single, Big Disco Energy. And I was listening to some of your other more recent, I don't know, the track Love Will. I forget if that's like fairly recent, right?
Yeah. Last summer. So
And I love all the new stuff, man. And I wanted to ask you, and maybe we can sort of compare and contrast versus like the sampling versus original thing. For disco and disco house, I feel like the formula of the music is pretty set, right? Like, you know some elements you're going to be hearing. So for you as the producer, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but like, how has your technique evolved over time to kind of keep that feeling fresh, not just to people listening, but also to you who's sort of making it and going into that formula, over and over?
It's a very good question, and I think it's one I've been asking for probably like every day for the last 2 years. How do you kind of keep it interesting? Because the formula is there. I mean, I think Daft Punk pretty much set it for us, and all the OGs from 2000s.
Oh man, I mean, Armin van Helden and the French touch sound and all that. Like,
it's so iconic, but it's also, we've, as a society of music lovers, we've come to kind of know how to reproduce that sound. It's you have a disco sample, you find a good part, you loop it, you throw some drums on top. Like, that's how it's been done for years. So for me, I try to, well, for starters, I kind of stopped sampling disco records, and I started going to look for samples if I'm gonna do like a classic disco house track where it samples something. I started going to different genres or places to try to find something that wasn't obvious and kind of sample that, and that would kind of change it enough to where it becomes interesting. That's one way I would do it, and the other way would be to more recently with like the new track Big Disco Energy. I wanted it to feel as warm as when you sample something, but everything's original. So so I'm getting into that world where I'm doing less and less samples, or it's not the main ingredient, as like, okay, here it is and this is what it is. Love Will is very straightforward, and that's why it wasn't a single in that EP. But I love the track and I love the feel, and it was like an old funk track. And I thought the sampling was clever, so I kept it. But it's pretty hard nowadays to kind of work around that and keep it interesting. There's another track in that EP that I really like that is called Cheeky, which I think has like a disco house feel, but it's not like an old sample. It's actually just new stuff.
Did you figure out when you're not sampling, but still trying to sort of capture the old vibe of it?
Yeah.
What are some tricks you figured out? Is it a lot of like EQing and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you mess up the sound enough, right?
Right.
It feels like warm.
Well, it's an interesting question because I think so much of one thing that makes your production stand out is that it's not dusty in a way that I think a lot of like sort of old sampley records are. Yeah. Like it's polished, but it does still have that warmth. So it's like, I'm curious what the trick is there.
I mean, it's not much of a trick, I would say, but some of the things are say you have like some chords or mostly like chords or bass and stuff. I would probably play with the EQ, and I mean, most of it, I think there's a meme somewhere I saw, and it was like someone asking, how do you make your stuff sound so warm? And it was like an EQ with like just cutting the high end off. That was it. So basically that in a way, but obviously like saturation and stuff. So you cut it and then you add the saturation, and that kind of acts as a, like those old tube compressors type of thing where you would get that nice saturation to it, but it wasn't overly bright, which I think kills it in a way, like you said, or it takes away the vibe, or it takes it somewhere else completely, and then it becomes like a house record maybe, and not like a disco house and stuff like that. So I try to play with the EQ and how do I bring out whatever's underneath the sound, and that usually goes to like different types of saturation.
Is that kind of the fun part for you in where you're at right now? Like just figuring out new ways to keep flipping the formula?
Yeah, it is. And back in the day when I started, I used to just make music and put it out, and not really, I was more about volume. And now I'm more of I tell my friends, I just think of something. Oh, I want to make a track like that sounds like this, but I don't know what the track is, but I spend more time thinking about an interesting way I could kind of change the genre in a way, or add something that could freshen it up for people that don't know what it is, the younger crowds, and they're like, what is this music? So I spend more time thinking about it than actually doing it, which is a very privileged space to be in. I kind of don't miss the times where I would sit here all day and nothing would come out, nothing good, at least. And there's people that work that way. I kind of naturally stopped working that way. And it's been good to me, at least to this point. I'm very like methodical because I don't want to repeat myself. When I started just sitting down recently and trying to get something out, I would basically do like a loop a sample and call it a day. And I didn't think that was kind of pushing the envelope when it came to the sound and the genre. And I like to think this is like the new wave of disco. That's what I like to call it. And I don't want to like implement that as a genre. Like, oh, we had disco house and now it's this. Right. But at least for me, that this is what it is and what something interesting would sound like paired with the old stuff, like you said.
No, I love that, man. I think it's better to not label it either. I think you got to resist labeling it as long as you can, because other people start doing that anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
yeah, definly. People in the comments, this is house.
Right.
Like, okay, if it's house to you, sure. Whatever. Yeah.
Have you, other than Crystal Waters, have you had any run-ins with any of the OGs of the sound? Like, I'm always curious how people from an older generation of that kind of music look at something like what you're doing now.
Yeah. I would have to say my good friend, now I could call a friend, because we've had a studio time and we've hung out and stuff. But Moose T, he had this great hit in the 2000s, the Horny
98.
Horny 98, exactly. I ran into him in New York City. I was playing elsewhere, if I'm not mistaken, and he was playing House of Yes, which is another club in New York, with the Glitter Box crew, because that's who he hangs out with, obviously. And and then he was like, you in town, like, let's have some breakfast. And he's just the best guy, man. He's so humble. And so, like, obviously me as a fan, I mean, I was already in that summer, it was crazy because I was playing Horny 98 in my sets.
100%.
And that was a highlight for me. It was a highlight in the sets because it's a really good song.
That's the thing. It's another one. It's like what we were saying earlier at the start of this conversation about disco itself, where like I think people would look at that song and be like, oh, that's like a corny, cheesy song.
Right.
But then if you play it in a different context, like you said, it's the biggest song of the night.
It's the biggest song of the night.
Such a good song.
Yeah. And then 20-year-olds would be like, what is this song? Like, I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
It'd be like, I would see people shazamming stuff, and I was like, that's good. Yeah. That's a good side. I met him in New York, and we actually went into the studio. That was like probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I didn't see him again until he came to LA. He did like a US tour last year, and we went to the studio and work on some stuff. And we don't know if it's coming out, but we made some music. So like 2 songs and stuff. And I think we're meeting again sometime. He's coming back to the US. So it's good to, talk to him and, get his perspective, and then get his story of like how things happened for him back in the day. And also, like, it's magical to hear, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's so different from today. Like, things were like kind of lasted longer, like when he had a hit, it lasted like 5-6 years, and he was touring and stuff. So, and now it feels as like 6 months or a year.
Tops, right?
Tops. And you got to have another song that starts running. Otherwise it's like, oh, you had that thing. And it hasn't even been a year, but yeah.
That's crazy. How are you with that kind of pressure? I feel like maybe from the soccer thing, you understand how to deal with pressure a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. It gets to me sometimes because obviously things have changed in social media, and everyone's doing something, and you kind of gotta keep up. I mean, I'm a bit of like resilient where I kind of don't give up in a way, so that helps a lot. But you gotta keep a balance, otherwise, if sometimes it does get over the top, and I'm like overly stressed about something that doesn't really matter. I mean, what I've learned in terms of songs, there's songs that I put out that I think are like, oh, this is the best thing and people are going to love it. And they end up picking the other one.
Oh, yeah, like, for sure.
You can't control it. And I just kind of try to detach from songs as much as possible to when it's release day. Okay, it's not mine anymore. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to roll out the content. I'm going to try to promote it. But if it doesn't stick, it doesn't. And you kind of move to the next one. And it kind of dilutes the music if you want people to appreciate something. But I guess only a handful of artists have both worlds where they can put something out that doesn't connect online instantly, but their fans will push it to a point where it does.
Yeah.
And that's a very rare place to be in. I mean, I think every artist wants to be there eventually. So I'm working my way to that. But yeah, right now songs are very recyclable. It's like, put one and then another one, which I don't like because I think every song I put out is special. And but we kind of roll with the punches. At least that's how it is now. And then if it changes, we'll change with the industry. Yeah.
And I think the idea too is like, if you do all those things that aren't so fun to do, that you do that so that these special songs that you're making hopefully find the right people eventually, right? Where it's like,
Oh, yeah. And then sometimes it's not even in that moment. I had a song called Turning You On that it's always kind of been in the top 3. But when it got released in 2018, it didn't do anything for like 3 years. And then Disclosure put it in their new playlist, which everyone went to listen. And that triggered that song.
Oh, man. Yeah, you never know. It's so funny how that works. Man.
Yeah, it's crazy. So never lose hope if you think something's good. Maybe it's not the right time,
Yeah, that's absolutely right, man. Well, as we're kind of wrapping it up here, a question I like to ask kind of on this theme is like, what's the most fun part of what you do to you right now? Like, what part of your whole thing is the most exciting to you, or the part you look forward to the most?
Oh, man. It's a tough one because I don't like the technical aspect of touring, but I do like the shows itself, even though it can be a little stressful, but it's very rewarding to see the fans and like people that know the songs, and you talk to them after the show. So I really like that. But the airplanes in the airports, like, oh my God, like
it's a crazy roller coaster. I mean, I'm right there with you. The hour, 2 hours on stage, it's the best feeling in the world. Yeah. Like, it justifies all the rest of it. But then when you're doing the rest of it, you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's that. And other than that, I mean, you didn't ask another, but I would say like conceptualizing things. So I wouldn't say I'm limited, but back in the day I didn't really have enough money. So I've always been trying to present things in a way. And I really enjoy like conceptualizing whatever is visual. Once you have the song, you're like, okay, how am I going to present this to the world? And in what way? Because framing is everything, it seems, nowadays in social media age, where you got to present it in a specific way to see if it clicks. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But at least you can kind of help the perception of who you are in that journey. Even if it doesn't connect, at least people would say, hey, people would tell me, oh, he's a disco guy in the US or whatever. Right. And that was through like the conceptualizing of things and using certain colors or certain, clothing and stuff like that. And I, coming from the band world, where artists and always loved pop music and stuff. And you mentioned Dua Lipa, and I obviously I'm a fan, but that disco record she made, the way they conceptualized it, I thought it was very thoughtful because someone did their homework and did that. And now I'm kind of into that weird thing.
Yeah, the details of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know a lot of DJs don't really get it that deep into it. Someone else does it. But I've always been like kind of independent, and even in that sense where I like to go deep into like the visual stuff as well.
Well, dude, I think it's a good note because, I was sort of trying and failing a little bit to express like why what you do feels unique to me. And now that we've had this talk, I think I understand it a little better, where it's sort of the nuance of it. And it's the fact that you're throwing a lot of little things into it that sort of complement the main thing. And that's a good note for anybody doing any creative project, man. It's like, the more little touches.
Yeah, if you can get involved, even like some people don't like to do it, but if you're involved in it, it'll feel more like who you are as an artist. And I think nowadays, authenticity is the buzzword, but it's just about what you really like. It's like, even when it comes down to stuff that's graphic design, and be like, you know what? Maybe I don't like any of the choices you sent me. You don't have to pick one. You could go into Pinterest and like just look for stuff you like and send that to them. They'll be okay, and then you'll get something that's at least more you.
Yeah. And on the flip side, if you get successful doing something that doesn't totally feel like you, that's a tough spot to be in too.
Yeah. Totally. Probably my worst nightmare, but yeah.
Oh, man. Well, is there anything else we haven't talked about? Anything else you want to get out there before we wrap it up, man?
Probably just the new song, Big Disco Energy, is part of an EP that's coming out later this year, hopefully around fall. And it'll be like, we don't know yet, but around 4 to 5 tracks. And I think the EP is going to be called Big Disco Energy. And I hope that sound-wise, sonics and visually, it encapsulates what I think disco should sound like in 2025. Make it exciting, make it fun again as well. I think there's so much serious music at the moment, which I love, in techno and bass music and stuff, but it feels a little cold. And I remember the times where I kind of listened to music and kind of giggled a little bit, like, oh, that was sarcastic, or that was clever, or stuff like that we kind of lost in it. And I think disco had that in the past, some songs, without going into like the cheesiness territory. And I kind of want to bring that back and, make dance music fun again and not that serious. So hopefully we do that with this EP.
I love that, man. I it's a thing I've said on this podcast before, but like one of my favorite things in life is like taking silliness seriously, or like being silly about being serious. Like things that toe that line really well, it's usually the best art as far as I'm concerned.
At least for me right now, in this headspace where I'm at, I kind of don't want to take it too seriously, because it's not like we're doctors or anything, right? We're just entertainers. We want to entertain, and it gets into the headspace, like you said, social media, it can get very stressful. So the last thing I want to do is kind of feed that, and I want to more of like, hey, we're just making music that feels good and see where that takes us.
I love it, man. I mean, I think that's a pretty good note to wrap it up on.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. This was great. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
No problem. My pleasure. This was great, man.
Yeah, this was so much fun, man. Yeah, 100%. All right, dude. Well, have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, man. Take care.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye.